everyone. My name is Hannah and I am a project manager. And in the course of my project management experience, I've learned that there are 5 important skills that you need as a project manager. Now, I'm still a work in progress in all of these skills, right? So, have I perfected any of these skills? Absolutely not. But I'll be sharing with you as I also continue to learn and grow in this field. The first skill I'll talk about would be communication. It could be written communication, it could be oral communication, but you need to be able to pass whatever information you're passing across to those who need it in such a way that there is clarity, there isn't ambiguity, and there is a feedback at the end of the day, right? So please be able to communicate with your team members to tell them this is what we're doing, this is the support I require from you. To communicate with your product owner to say this is where we are at on the project, these are the challenges we're facing. You're going to communicate with your sponsor to say, I need this support, I need this, and all of that. So there is a host of people that you're communicating with at each point in time in the course of the project. The second skill you would need would be stakeholder management. Stakeholder management is so important. You have various stakeholders, right? Not all the stakeholders have equal, should I say, power on your project. Not all of them have equal influence. Not all of them have equal level of participation in your project, but knowing what each stakeholder needs is so important. And who are your stakeholders really? The stakeholders are people who would be impacted by your project one way or the other. For example, you're building a product, the stakeholders are the end users, the stakeholders are maybe your sponsors, the people who would work on that project, that's the delivery team. A stakeholder is a product owner, the person who is requesting for, say, that product to be built, your sponsor, and all of that. So there are various stakeholders in the course of managing a project. Regulatory bodies are also stakeholders and all of those things. So think about anybody who is going to be impacted by your project one way or the other. They are all stakeholders. Now, stakeholders, they have various influences, right, and impact on your project. Okay, I hope I'm not mixing them up, but there are 4 of them. So let me just try to sum them up. High impact and low influence, right? High impact and high influence. Low impact and low influence. High influence and low impact. So there are 4 categories. I'll be probably going to just write it down, right? So that I'm not mixing them up. And so each stakeholder needs to be treated differently. And we live in among people. So you also need to understand the culture of the people that you're interacting with, right? If you're interacting with certain stakeholders, there's some people who are really too busy to check their emails. They're not going to read your mails. Still send that email, but if it's a WhatsApp chat, you can say to them. Some, it's a Teams message and all of that. Just try to understand how your stakeholders need to be communicated with. Some, you guys need to get into a meeting, right? For example, your team, you need to have regular check-in meetings with them, maybe daily stand-up meetings and all of that. These are methods of communicating with each stakeholder depending on their needs, right? And some stakeholders, you're going to have to write them letters, right? If you're dealing with government officials, you're going to send your mail as usual, to request for something. But if it is something critical that needs to be communicated with them, letters are your best bet. You're going to have to send a letter to that organization and ensure you get an acknowledgement copy, right? If you send letters to a government official or to a government body and you don't get an acknowledgement copy, really you haven't communicated to them, in an official capacity. And so understanding their culture, what they need, and what is also the approved or formalized method of communication is important. For example, you're talking to your colleague, you guys have agreed on something. Yes, a phone call is so good and it's important, but after the phone call, you should write an as discussed email just to document all of the things that have been agreed on, the things that have been discussed, and all that. Because in project management, I tell you, really, people are interesting to work with. People are funny, right? You guys can agree on something and you're going to be denied that, oh no, I never said that. Oh no, we didn't agree to this and all of that. And you're going to look like I'm idiot really, because why didn't you document that, right? So communication is also proper documentation of key conversations, of key, agreements and the risks and all of those things. So you need to be able to document, and it's a form of communication, right? It's a written form of communication to say, this is what we've discussed, this is what we've agreed, and all of that. I'll say always write emails as much as you can. Now, not everything be gotten through mails. You need something from someone, you need somebody to quickly do something for you, you need a favor from a colleague. After you've written the mail, get your phones working. Work your phones. Use your leg. If you work in an environment where you see your team members, walk up to them and ask for what you want. You'll be surprised how quickly you're going to get, solution or answers if you actually find, should I say, informal ways of communicating to people, right? So mails are important, letters are important if you need to write them, but find ways, informal ways to communicate with people to really get what you want, right? There is always, we're not robots, so put a human touch to whatever it is that you're doing. So from stakeholder management, I will talk about report writing. To be honest with you, as a project manager, it is not my favorite thing to do. However, it's so important. You might need to write daily reports depending on the kind of project. You might need to write weekly reports, and you might need to write monthly reports, right? And PowerPoint is such a great way to sort of explain everything that you're doing on your project. Have a slide, that sort of documents what the project is about, what it is you're doing, what you do next week, what you did the previous week, the challenges that you had, the risks and all that. Report writing. Sometimes also just writing a structured email to say, this is where we're at on this project, this is where we're going to next week, these are challenges, and all of that is so important. So whatever works for you, and every organization is different. So you don't be so boxed into, I have to use PowerPoint and all that. Please use Excel. Whatever works for you is fine, but we need to regularly report on your projects. It's such an important skill. Your ability to put down and properly summarize the activities on your project is really important, and it cannot be micromanaged. Another skill you would need is negotiation, right? Especially if you're working with a delivery team, right? Your project is not the only thing they're working on. They have other commitments. They have other day-to-day activities that they also need to deliver on as team members, right? They have their own line reports as well. They have their line managers as well. They have other tasks. So the ability to be able to negotiate with your team members goes a long way. Not just your team members, even the product owner. Someone says, this thing is going to take 5 days to do. And you don't have 5 days, right? So we're going to have to negotiate to say, can we do 3 days? Can we do 2 days? Someone says, it's going to take me so and so whatever to design this UX. Okay, amazing. But I don't have 2 weeks. I don't have 1 week. What can we do? And just also ask, what support can I provide? What support do you require to shift this timeline, forward, as the case may be? So the ability to negotiate is so important. So when you're working with people, you need to be able to negotiate timelines with your superiors, with the product owner, with the sponsor, with your team members, with somebody who just needs to do something for you, with every stakeholder, right? And just also be willing to give something in return as well, so that your project can move and can be successful. One more skill I'd like to talk about would be leadership, right? As a project manager, you are the head of that project. You're the head of that team that is trying to deliver a product or a service, and your ability to lead people is so important. We're all learning how to lead. I'm not a perfect leader. I don't even know if I'm really great at it. However, genuinely caring about your team members is so important. Genuinely taking time to really, really ask them, right, how they are is so important. But also ensuring that team members can get to the point where we want them to be in terms of delivering results and all that. Leadership is so important, and I think that, one good thing about project management is it forces you to be a leader. The question would now be, what kind of leader are you going to be at the end of the day, right? Like I said, I'm also a work in progress. I don't think I'm a perfect leader. There's so much for me to learn, but as we're on this journey of getting better, I would continue to share all of the things I think we can all improve upon and things that we need to manage projects better. So, whether you're thinking, what are the soft skills I need to manage projects, to be a project manager? Here they are. And maybe I'll talk about more of the skills in subsequent videos. I don't know, but these 5 skills are so important. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe to this channel. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.